This is Sparta!
This is Sparta. That thunderous roar didn't just rip through the screen in 2007, it defined Gerard Butler's entire career. In that moment when he launched his enemy into the abyss with a single kick, a new action star was born. But to embody that immortal image, Butler had to pay with blood, sweat, injuries, and years of living as if he himself were a Spartan warrior off-screen. Few would have guessed that behind that commanding figure lay a childhood without a father, a young man lost in drinking, and a middle-aged man who to this day has yet to find a true home. Gerard Butler became famous not only for his iconic role in 300, but also for the paradox his life reveals. On screen, the undefeatable warrior. Off screen, a soul scarred and restless, forever searching for something that has never belonged to him. So what turned an abandoned Scottish boy into a global action star? Butler's story is not just the journey of an actor, but an unending battle with pain, self-doubt, and the shadows of his private life. If you have ever been moved by Gerard Butler through a single scene, a single line, or even a glimpse of his real life, like to honor his extraordinary journey. Join us as we retrace Butler's path from a wounded childhood to the heights of fame, across battles both on screen and in life itself. Early life. Gerard James Butler was born on November 13th, 1969, in Paisley, Scotland, into an Irish Catholic family. He was the youngest of 3 children of Edward Butler and Margaret Butler. When Gerard was only a few months old, the family moved to Montreal, Canada, hoping for a fresh start. But happiness was short-lived. His parents' marriage quickly fell apart. When Gerard was just over a year old, his mother decided to take the children back to Scotland, while his father chose to disappear from their lives. The absence of his father left an unfillable void in Butler's childhood. He later admitted he grew up with a fear of abandonment and a constant feeling of never being good enough to be loved. For nearly 15 years, Gerard did not see his father again. It wasn't until he was 16, by chance, that the two reunited. Yet the brief joy of that moment was soon extinguished when, only a few years later, his father died of cancer. The fragile bond that had just begun was severed, leaving a lingering wound in Gerard's heart, one he confessed would never heal. Despite the lack of a stable family life, Gerard excelled in school. He was bright, articulate, and had a naturally likable appearance. These traits helped him secure admission to the law program at the University of Glasgow, a source of immense pride for his mother, who had raised her children in hardship. During his student years, Gerard served as president of the school's law society, actively participated in various activities, and on paper, he seemed destined for a successful legal career. Yet beneath the surface of being the good son and model student, Gerard was a restless rebel. He plunged into wild nights of partying, drank heavily to the point of losing control, and sought thrills as if trying to fill the emptiness within. After graduation, he became a trainee lawyer at a prestigious law firm in Edinburgh. But the strict discipline of the legal profession clashed sharply with his reckless lifestyle. In a short time, Gerard was dismissed for misconduct, a devastating blow, as the legal career had been seen as the safe ticket his mother had hoped for. Looking back, Butler acknowledges this was the turning point. If he hadn't been forced out of law, he might never have become an actor. At that time, I was a young man full of confusion, terrified yet desperate to find a different path for my life, he recalled. The collapse of his legal ambitions not only crushed his dream of being a lawyer, but also opened a new door. A door that would lead Gerard Butler away from Scotland to London in pursuit of something he had never dared imagine before: acting. Early career. When the door to law closed, Gerard Butler found himself at a crossroads. Without a stable job or a family of his own, he decided to leave Scotland for London, a city unfamiliar to him, where all he carried was a vague dream that, "I want to act." Butler often recalled that period as a time when he lived like a drifter, taking on odd jobs just to survive, from waiting tables and handing out flyers to nameless gigs, all to keep alive his dream of one day standing on stage. Fortune smiled when he joined the Lyceum Theatre in Edinburgh and later became a stage assistant in a play directed by Steven Berkoff. It was Berkoff, the veteran British director, who recognized in the young Scotsman a raw intensity and rare emotional depth. He encouraged Butler to audition for Coriolanus. That was the first time Gerard Butler stepped onto the stage in a serious role, and the feeling, as he later described, was like finding myself again after years of being lost. In the late 1990s, Butler gradually landed small parts on British television: Tomorrow Never Dies, an uncredited role, The Young Person's Guide to Becoming a Rock Star. Though fleeting, each appearance gave him a bit more confidence to push forward. In 2000, Butler had his first breakthrough with the lead role in Dracula 2000. The horror film was no artistic masterpiece, but it introduced him to Hollywood with a dark, seductive, and distinctive screen presence. He then appeared in Reign of Fire 2002, alongside Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale, a post-apocalyptic fantasy project that edged him closer to the action genre. However, it was The Phantom of the Opera 2004 that became the greatest challenge of his early career. Cast as the Phantom under director Joel Schumacher, Butler surprised many. A man with no formal vocal training daring to sing the iconic Andrew Lloyd Webber score. Though his singing was criticized by many as lacking technique, his emotionally charged performance still resonated with audiences. It was proof of his audacity and his instinct. Butler never shied away from venturing into places others deemed out of reach. Looking back, the path from failed lawyer to Dracula and the Phantom of the Opera was anything but smooth. It was filled with long nights of waiting, fleeting bit parts, and constant self-doubt. But those years forged Gerard Butler, shaping him from a lost young man into an actor ready to take on the role that would define his career: King Leonidas in 300. 300. And the brutal truth behind the filming. In 2007, when 300 unexpectedly became a box office phenomenon, all of Hollywood was stunned. The film grossed over $70 million in its opening weekend and reached $456 million worldwide, nearly 8 times its budget. Its success not only proved the appeal of a visual style drawn from Frank Miller's graphic novel, but also ignited a new trend, making epic films through daring hyper-stylized imagery. Yet, behind those mythic frames and the immortal roar, "This is Sparta," lay a reality few knew. The cast and crew paid with sweat, blood, and lasting injuries. Years later, Gerard Butler revealed that nearly every day on set, someone ended up in the hospital. A spear almost blinded one actor, another dislocated his shoulder and broke his ankle, while Butler himself collapsed multiple times from exhaustion. Director Zack Snyder wanted the battles to feel authentic, so most of the cast performed their own fight scenes instead of relying on stunt doubles. The set became more like a military training ground, real metal weapons, only dulled at the edges, heavy armor, cramped spaces, and endless takes under suffocating hot lights. What audiences saw on screen as heroic battles was, in reality, chaos, pain, and bodies covered in bruises. The harshest part, however, came during preparation. Before filming, the actors were thrown into Gym Jones, the infamous training facility run by Coach Mark Twight. There, Butler and his co-stars trained 6 hours a day, 7 months straight. It wasn't just about lifting weights or push-ups. They endured high-intensity CrossFit circuits, martial arts, sword fighting, tire flips, and obstacle courses, transforming their bodies into those of true warriors. The now famous 300 workout, 300 continuous reps with no rest, was born here, later becoming a global trend. But for Butler, it was pure hell. He suffered tendinitis, hip damage, torn shoulder muscles, at times unable to even lift his arm. He admitted the regimen almost destroyed my body, and after filming Wrapped, it took him a full year before he could train normally again. So what kept Butler going? The answer lay in his level of immersion. He didn't just want to play Leonidas. He wanted to become a Spartan king. Butler meditated daily, saying he tried to connect with Leonidas's spirit through a strange portal. Injuries and exhaustion no longer felt like obstacles, but part of his transformation. Each pain helped me feel the warrior spirit more deeply, he explained. It was this devotion that made his roar of, "This is Sparta," an iconic cinematic moment, because it wasn't just a line, but the release of a man who had truly endured physical agony to touch spiritual strength. Another remarkable factor was the camaraderie forged among the cast. The brutal workouts built not only muscle, but a real brotherhood. Butler recalled, "When we stood in front of the camera, it felt like we had actually been through war together. That genuine bond translated onto the screen, making the unity of the 300 warriors more powerful than any special effect. Beyond the physical sacrifices, 300 also imposed a heavy psychological toll. Most of the film was shot against green screens, no real landscapes, no real enemies, forcing the actors to imagine everything. Fighting invisible foes for hours under blazing lights wearing heavy armor was a near inhuman challenge. Butler fainted from dehydration and exhaustion more than once, but pushed himself to rise and continue, knowing that if he collapsed, Leonidas's image would crumble instantly. The result exceeded all expectations. 300 was not just a successful film, but a cultural phenomenon. It redefined cinematic storytelling, set a new standard for the male physique, fueled debates about masculinity and discipline, and inspired a generation to seek Spartan strength in real life. More importantly, it catapulted Gerard Butler from a relatively unknown actor into an international star. If before he was remembered only for The Phantom of the Opera or a few supporting roles, after 300, Butler became a sought-after leading man for both action and romance films. 300 didn't just change Hollywood, it changed Gerard Butler forever. It transformed him from a failed lawyer, lost in alcohol, into a symbol of strength and courage. But the price he paid, the injuries, the exhaustion, the haunting sense of his body betraying him, stayed with him long afterward. Those scars became part of his journey, a reminder that cinematic glory is often just a veneer covering invisible pain. Career after 300. 300 thrust Gerard Butler from the margins straight into the heart of Hollywood. But immediately after that thunderous roar, "This is Sparta," a daunting question emerged. How not to be trapped in the shadow of Leonidas? Butler chose to pivot right away. In 2007, he appeared in P.S. I Love You as a husband who leaves behind letters to guide his wife through grief. The film was a commercial success and, more importantly, proved that Butler could shed the armor and tap into emotional vulnerability. This choice laid the foundation for his long-term sin wave strategy, constantly shifting between action, romance, crime, and drama to avoid being typecast. From 2008 to 2010, Butler rolled out a series of experiments to expand his image. He starred in Nim's Island, 2008, aimed at family audiences. Guy Ritchie's Rock'n'Rolla, 2008, gave him a cheeky London gangster edge, boosting his credibility in crime cinema. In 2009 came The Ugly Truth, a rom-com that scored at the box office despite poor reviews, Gamer, an ambitious satire on control and spectacle that fell into chaos, and Law-Abiding Citizen, a box office jolt with a morally gray character, a grieving victim turned avenger against the justice system. In 2010, The Bounty Hunter reaffirmed Butler's commercial draw in mainstream entertainment, while How to Train Your Dragon opened a new frontier. Voicing Stoic the Vast, a father figure both stern and tender, which connected Butler to younger audiences and created a lasting voice acting milestone alongside his live-action career. From 2011 onward, Butler deliberately anchored himself in roles requiring depth and risk. Machine Gun Preacher, 2011, showed he could carry a serious drama based on a real person, a reformed biker turned humanitarian, drenched in inner conflict. Coriolanus, 2011, with Ralph Fiennes, reconnected him to his Shakespearean stage roots. Chasing Mavericks, 2012, took him to the open sea as Frosty Hessen, a role tied to his near-drowning accident that led to a struggle with painkillers, where private turmoil bled into career choices. In between came Playing for Keeps, 2012, an artistic misstep. And then came the franchise-defining gamble, Olympus Has Fallen, 2013. In Mike Banning, a gruff, rugged, loyal Secret Service agent, Butler found a character that matched both his persona and global appetite: hard R action, rescue tropes, and classic pacing. This was also when his production company G-Base, with Alan Siegel, began to show its influence. Butler wasn't just acting, but actively shaping Butler Films, mid-budget, high-intensity projects designed for optimal international revenue. 2014 to 2017 revealed the flip side of this broad reach strategy. How to Train Your Dragon 2, 2014, cemented Stoic's staying power. London Has Fallen, 2016, solidified the Banning brand, but Gods of Egypt, 2016, and Geostorm, 2017, stood as prime examples of formulaic blockbuster risks: weak scripts, negative reviews, disappointing grosses. Between them was A Family Man, 2016, a small drama about the cost of work obsession, hinting at Butler's desire to weave fatherhood, a personal void, into his roles, adding a human texture to his tough guy image. From 2018 onward, Butler recalibrated. Den of Thieves, 2018, gave him Nick O'Brien, a rough, reckless, dangerous LA cop, adding a new angle to the Butler system: gritty crime, sweat, and gunpowder tethered to family dynamics. Hunter Killer, 2018, plunged him into the depths of a submarine thriller. 2019 was a pivotal year. How to Train Your Dragon. The hidden world closed Stoic's journey with warmth and humanity while Angel Has Fallen brought Banning back in a fresh variation, an action hero framed and forced to save himself, allowing the trilogy to end on a convincing note. Then came the pandemic, and Butler responded with the least expected move, Greenland, 2020. Instead of saving the world, he played a husband and father caught in a cataclysmic meteor disaster. No flashy set pieces, just survival tension and family bonds. Butler stepped half a pace back from the muscle-bound superhero and half a pace forward into the bruised everyman, an emotional shift that revealed an underappreciated vein of acting talent. The film performed solidly on streaming and overseas markets, paving the way for a sequel in development, Greenland Migration. After the pandemic, Butler sustained momentum with a string of mid-budget projects, G-Base's sweet spot. Cop Shop, 2021, director Joe Carnahan, was a powder-scented cat-and-mouse thriller set inside a police station. Last Seen Alive, 2022, a small theatrical release, climbed digital charts thanks to its taut pacing. Plane, 2023, blended a high-concept hook, a pilot crash landing in a war zone, with survival and buddy movie energy, restoring the grown-up action movie feel at a moderate budget. Kandahar, 2023, leaned into geopolitics, prioritizing atmosphere over spectacle. While none were phenomena like 300, this string proved Butler had read the market well. In an era of massive IPs, there remained a strong demand for just right action films. Reliable stars, straightforward plots, tight rhythms, especially across the theatrical to digital global pipeline. Butler's post-300 career was not a straight climb, but a series of controlled oscillations. He accepted the Falls, Gods of Egypt, Geostorm, to earn greater range on the other end, Law-Abiding Citizen, Den of Thieves, Greenland. He persisted with the star producer model, building a personal brand of films tailored to his strengths, calculating risks, and maintaining ownership over his screen identity. Current projects in development: Night Has Fallen, Den of Thieves 2, Pantera, Greenland, Migration, signal that the same logic continues. One foot in franchise security, the other in bruised, emotionally resonant, everyman variations. And if there is one through line to underline, post-300, Butler turned muscle into a means, not an end. In his roles, physical strength always walks hand in hand with internal scars, the gruff yet loyal protector of the president, the ordinary father in an apocalypse, the flawed LA cop, the husband leaving behind love letters. His career has highs, lows, and scars, with detours and stumbles, but never frivolity. It remains consistent with the unspoken promise Butler once sealed with sweat and blood on the set of 300. Every role must be earned, even if the reward is only a silent nod from the audience after the credits roll. Turmoil and shadows. If 300 was a dazzling beginning, the years that followed saw Gerard Butler confronting a much darker side: scandals, addiction, and downward spirals in his personal life. Behind the spotlight of an action star were long battles with alcohol, accidents that nearly ended his career, and the Scottish bad boy image the press stamped onto him. From his youth, Butler was no stranger to alcohol. He once admitted that he drank to numb the emptiness of his fatherless childhood and the sense of being lost after leaving law behind. That habit followed him into Hollywood, where parties, long nights, and the pressure of filming only made it worse. Butler was hospitalized multiple times from excessive drinking. In 2012, after a surfing accident while filming Chasing Mavericks, he relied on heavy doses of painkillers to cope with the injuries and quickly slipped into dependency. Butler later confessed, "I thought I was dying from those pills." The incident forced him into rehab, a wake-up call he described as the biggest turning point of his life. It wasn't just alcohol and pills. Butler was also tangled in the kind of rough-edged scandals typical of Hollywood stars. He brawled with paparazzi, was spotted drunk in public, and was seen at rowdy parties that led the British tabloids to dub him an adrenaline junkie. His recklessness sometimes crossed into near disaster. On film sets, Butler repeatedly flirted with death, from hypothermia in Iceland to real bruising blows during the filming of 300 to a dangerous car explosion while shooting alongside Pierce Brosnan. His career always seemed shadowed by a degree of unpredictable risk, and he was often criticized as stubborn, reckless with safety for insisting on performing his own stunts. The media also seized on his failures. After 300 with expectations sky high, Butler faced a string of box office flops. Gods of Egypt, 2016, was condemned for whitewashing and a chaotic script. Geostorm, 2017, was labeled a cinematic disaster, with audiences mocking it as the storm that swallowed Butler's career. Many critics argued he had no eye for scripts, chasing paychecks and franchises over artistry. To some, he was little more than a B-list star, living off his muscles. And yet these shadows also shaped Butler's strange allure. He never tried to present himself as perfect. He accepted being called a bad boy, admitted to relapses with alcohol and pills, and openly spoke of his insecurities in Hollywood. He even once said, "I know I'll never be George Clooney. I'm just trying to survive as my messy version of myself." Throughout it all, Butler became a living paradox in Hollywood. A star who could sell tickets as an invincible hero, yet in real life collapsed under the very temptations that entertainment culture breeds. Scandals, criticism, and box office misfires may have dulled his shine, but they also underscored a deeper truth. Gerard Butler was never a polished Hollywood product, but a real man carrying scars he never tried to hide. Personal life. If on screen Gerard Butler is the indomitable Spartan warrior, then off-screen he is notorious as a true Scottish playboy, charismatic, noisy, and constantly hunted by paparazzi. The higher his career climbed, the more his love life became fodder for the tabloids. And true to the image Hollywood cast for him, Butler rarely stayed with one woman for long. His romances came and went within months, but each was enough to build a chain of stories that tied his name to an untamed allure. In 2009, Butler and Jennifer Aniston sparked a wave of rumors while working together on The Bounty Hunter. They were caught sharing intimate gestures both on set and during the film's promotional tour. The press dubbed them Hollywood's new golden couple. But in reality, the relationship fizzled after only a few months. Butler later claimed they were just friends, though the paparazzi photos of them laughing together continue to suggest otherwise. Before that, Butler had been linked to Cameron Diaz after the two were seen together at a few New York parties. The relationship was never confirmed, but it didn't need to be. Just the sight of them leaving a club at midnight was enough to fuel countless tabloid headlines. Lindsay Lohan, the former scandalous starlet, was also mentioned in Butler's rumored girlfriend list. In 2008, paparazzi captured the two chatting closely at a Los Angeles event. The rumor flared up, then quickly died, but once again reinforced Butler's image as a relentless ladies' man. Naomi Campbell, the powerful black supermodel, was rumored to have had a fling with Butler in 2007 after they were spotted vacationing with friends in India. Some British newspapers even ran the headline, "The Gladiator and the Supermodel," to describe this unlikely pairing. Like many of his romances, however, it went nowhere. Butler was even rumored to have been briefly close with Madonna after her divorce from Guy Ritchie. The news caused a stir because of their age and status gap, but neither ever confirmed it. The common thread in all of these romances was their brevity. They usually began with a hug at an event, a dinner sighting, or a spontaneous getaway. But that alone was enough for the press to spin a story. Butler rarely bothered to deny it, sometimes even letting the rumors feed into his personal brand. A man irresistible, untamed, and impossible to tie down. The media called him a romantic nomad, while friends suggested that Butler simply never overcame the trauma of being abandoned by his father as a child. That insecurity made him crave love, yet terrified him whenever things got too serious. As a result, fleeting romances seemed to be his way of both seeking and avoiding intimacy at the same time. And yet behind the Playboy label, Butler is a man full of scars. He has admitted to the loneliness that surrounds him during long nights without applause, and confessed that sometimes the Hollywood lights made him believe he would never have a true home. The more famous he became, the more adrift he felt. Many relationships ended not because of a lack of passion, but because he could never settle into stability. Friends close to him have said Butler is afraid of marriage, haunted by the abandonment that has followed him since childhood. His longest-lasting relationship in recent years has been with interior designer Morgan Brown. She was the rare woman who made both the press and his friends believe Butler might finally settle down. Yet, even this relationship became the clearest proof of his instability. It lasted nearly a decade, but was marked by constant breakups and reconciliations. Butler met Morgan Brown in 2014. They quickly became a media sensation when spotted on romantic beach dates in Malibu. Unlike his short-lived flings, Butler appeared more committed and frequently appeared publicly with Morgan. The press called it a rare, serious relationship for the Scottish actor, as Morgan was not a famous star but a successful businesswoman in real estate and design. Many believed she could provide the stability Butler had long lacked. But the relationship was never smooth. Just a year after going public in 2015, they broke up for the first time, reportedly due to busy schedules and lifestyle differences. Butler was still filming around the world, while Morgan needed stability at home. Yet, by late 2016, they were back together, vacationing in Mexico. Once again, engagement rumors swirled, only to fade into silence. From 2017 to 2019, Butler and Morgan hovered in an on-again, off-again limbo. At times, they nearly lived together in Los Angeles, attending parties and walking Butler's dog. Soon after, breakup rumors would surface, leaving fans confused about their status. Butler once responded vaguely in an interview, "Morgan and I have a special bond. We can drift apart, but somehow always find our way back." In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Butler and Morgan reunited, spending more time together. Insiders claimed Butler was finally ready to settle down. He was 50, while Morgan, already a mother, had the maturity and experience of a grown woman. Yet only months later, the media reported another split, with Butler citing work pressures and differing expectations about marriage. In 2021 and 2022, they were spotted together a few more times, on vacations or at dinners in Los Angeles. But each time it ended with nothing more than reunion rumors, never confirmed by either side. To this day, their relationship hangs unresolved, neither fully over nor moving toward marriage. What makes this romance notable is not just its length and turbulence, but the fact that Morgan Brown seemed to be the only one patient enough for Butler. While most of his relationships lasted mere months, Morgan stayed in his life for nearly a decade, enduring his flightiness and career upheavals. Friends of Butler have said that if he ever had a chance at stability, Morgan was the one most likely to make it real. And yet, after almost 10 years, Butler remains the same. A charming but unsettled star, longing for love, yet afraid of commitment. His relationship with Morgan Brown, an endless cycle of breaking and reconciling, only underscores the paradox. A man who could make the world believe in the strength of a Spartan king, but could not find the certainty to keep one woman by his side. Family for Butler is a complicated notion. He has always loved his mother and siblings, but his bond with his father, the man who left when he was just 18 months old, remains an unhealed wound. Years later, when his father returned, Butler had only a few short years with him before cancer took that chance away. Perhaps it was this loss that left him unable to find lasting security in his own relationships. He once admitted, "I may be a king on screen, but in real life, I'm just a child who never truly grew up." Thus, Gerard Butler's image is a paradox, an invincible action star, yet a heart fragile and uncertain, drifting through fleeting romances. And perhaps it is this very contradiction that makes the public both admire him and wonder. Will this man ever find his final safe harbor, legacy and influence? Gerard Butler's image, forever tied to Leonidas in 300, has become one of the most powerful pop culture icons of the 21st century. The roar, "This is Sparta," did not only echo across the screen, it embedded itself into everyday life, from stadium chants and commercials to countless memes circulating online. With a single role, Butler carved out an indelible figure of the indomitable hero, leaving an entire generation with a collective memory of courage and strength. That influence extended far beyond cinema. After 300, millions of men flocked to gyms, eager to recreate the Spartan physique. The 300 workout became a phenomenon, igniting a new standard of masculinity, muscular, disciplined, and bound to sacrifice. This wave didn't just make Butler an action star, it positioned him as the unlikely catalyst for a fitness movement, shaping modern cultural perceptions of male strength. Within Hollywood, Butler carved out a unique niche. He avoided the traditional superstar path and instead built his own brand, mid-budget action films fueled by tension and anchored by gritty hero figures. Has Fallen, Den of Thieves, Plane, and Greenland all bear testament to that strategy. While much of Hollywood pursued superhero universes and CGI spectacles, Butler remained committed to keeping alive the tradition of classic action cinema, where the actor's body and emotions remain at the core. Few also know that beyond the screen, Butler has dedicated himself to humanitarian work. After Machine Gun Preacher, he became involved in fundraising campaigns to support children in Africa, participated in disaster relief efforts, and quietly supported local communities without fanfare. For Butler, filmmaking may be one kind of battle, but off-screen he has sought to fight humanitarian battles that draw less spotlight, yet carry equal weight. Gerard Butler's legacy does not lie in the number of awards, of which he has relatively few, but in the endurance of his screen persona. He is the immortal Leonidas, the unyielding Mike Banning, the ordinary man in Greenland, who made audiences believe that even at the end of the world, family ties remain salvation. That image, with all its scars, highs, and lows, has etched Butler into the cinematic history of the new century as an imperfect yet authentic star, one whom audiences admire while also recognizing pieces of themselves in him. Present life. Now, in his 50s, Gerard Butler remains a familiar face in Hollywood, even if no longer at the box office peak he reached with 300. Rather than chasing superhero blockbusters, he has steadfastly kept to his own path, mid-budget action thrillers, where Butler is not only the leading man, but also a producer through his own company, G-Base. In 2024, Butler was especially busy. He took on the role of executive producer for Paris Has Fallen, a television spin-off from the Hit Has Fallen franchise, released on Canal+, Hulu, and Prime Video. At the same time, Butler confirmed his return as Stoic the Vast in the live-action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon, scheduled for release in 2025. A choice showing his willingness to revisit roles tied to the childhood of an entire generation of fans. In addition, Greenland, Migration, the sequel to Greenland, began filming in the UK and Iceland, though its release has been pushed to 2026. In 2025, Butler once again proved his drawing power with Den of Thieves 2, Pantera. Released in January 2025, the crime thriller grossed over $58 million worldwide on a $40 million budget, while also breaking into Netflix's top 10 for several consecutive weeks. This role not only reaffirmed Butler as a star who can still pull audiences into theaters, but also highlighted his recklessness. He performed major action sequences himself, despite suffering an ACL injury. The success of the sequel has paved the way for Den of Thieves 3, currently in development and set to span locations from Africa to Southeast Asia. Butler has not limited himself to commercial fare. He is also part of Julian Schnabel's artistic project, In the Hand of Dante, co-starring Oscar Isaac, Gal Gadot, Al Pacino, and Jason Momoa. The film is slated to premiere at the Venice Film Festival in September 2025, a clear step into the artistic realm, showing Butler's desire to challenge himself beyond muscle-bound action roles. Outside of work, Butler maintains his familiar nomadic lifestyle. He divides his time between Los Angeles, Scotland, and Mediterranean holidays on his private yacht. His personal life remains solitary after his near-decade on-again, off-again relationship with Morgan Brown, but Butler seems to have accepted this solitude as part of who he is. He dedicates much of his time to meditation, physical training, and humanitarian causes, particularly fundraising for children in conflict zones and disaster relief efforts. His life today is a strange balance, at once lavish, with mansions, sports cars, and yachts, and yet austere, marked by lingering injuries and enduring loneliness. Above all, Butler has managed to maintain his own place in Hollywood, not as a superstar untouched by hardship, but as a warrior who has passed his peak yet refuses to fall. For Butler, the journey has never been about a single summit, but about resilience, fighting through one battle after another, both on screen and in life. Gerard Butler has never been the perfect star Hollywood loves to polish. He does not boast a shelf full of prestigious awards, nor is he an infallible box office juggernaut. What he offers instead is a career filled with missteps, yet persistence, where charm, mistakes, loneliness, and artistry coexist. And it is precisely this truth that makes audiences believe in him, not as a myth painted in makeup, but as a flesh-and-blood man, carrying scars that cannot be hidden. If this journey has ever touched you, even through a glance, a line of dialogue, or a role, leave a like as a tribute to Gerard Butler. And tell us, what do you see in this Spartan warrior? A hero, a lost soul, or a surprisingly relatable man? Leave your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the legends yet to come.